Gary Oak is many things to many people. Oak calls him grandson, Ash calls him rival, and I call him Homewrecker. Why, you may ask? Well, I think he's the reason that Brock's father Flint abandoned his family. Today, I'll break down my theory, explaining how Gary gave Flint a midlife crisis by humiliating him in a gym battle. In the episode Battle of the Badge, it was revealed that Gary earned the Boulder Badge. Normally, a trainer from Pallet Town beating the Pewter City Gym is nothing special. What made this victory so unique, however, is that it's entirely obvious that Gary never battled Brock. If they had fought, one of them would have hinted towards their showdown when they first crossed paths and dig those Diglett. Because there's no evidence that Gary and Brock ever had a gym battle, the logical conclusion is that Gary instead fought Flint. It's possible he fought Brock's brother Forrest, but the Boulder Badge being in the upper left corner of his badge case totally dismisses that theory. The placement implies that it was the first badge Gary earned upon leaving home. Furthermore, Forrest wouldn't lead the gym until well later into the series. Flint's losing to an arrogant novice like Gary is exactly the sort of thing that would make him want to leave home, go on a journey, and finally prove himself as a Pokemon master. He had always desired to be a strong trainer, so getting wrecked by Gary's newly obtained Squirtle would have been absolutely humiliating. It probably didn't help that at that point in the series, Gary was a jerk who thought little of others' feelings. Gary wouldn't learn to respect others until he got humbled at the Indigo League. In the early days of the anime, he regularly taunted others, flaunted his greatness, and criticized those he deemed weak. Since he bullied Ash throughout Kanto, it's not hard to imagine that he did the same to Flint. By the time Ash met Flint in Showdown at Pewter City, the man had become a hollow shell of his old self. Because of his reckless abandonment of his family, Brock had been forced to assume care of both the gym and his siblings. It's important to note that it's never made clear how long Brock had been leading his family's gym. All we knew about him when he was first introduced was that he was a powerful trainer who took his job incredibly seriously. He acted like he had been a gym leader for many years, but I think this was merely a facade so as to make up for his father's shortcomings. It's likely that Brock was immediately comfortable in the position, as he grew up around the gym, valued tradition, and had natural skill as a trainer. That said, he had always hoped to be a breeder and only accepted the gym leader position out of respect for his family's legacy. Given that Gary was several days ahead of Ash in his journey, I think his battle with Flint was likely the last before Brock took over his father's position. At most, Brock likely held the role for about a week. A major challenge to my theory of Brock being a gym leader for only a few days comes from a piece of dialogue that Flint relayed right before he returned home and resumed leadership of the gym. In said dialogue, he claimed that he hadn't taken care of his family for years. Although this can be interpreted in a literal sense, it's equally possible that he meant it more as an apology for being emotionally distant. All in all, we may never know whether Gary fought Brock, Flint, or an unnamed stand-in. While I think Gary crushed Flint's spirit and accelerated Brock's ascension to gym leader, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject in the comments. And on that note, class is adjourned. My name's Professor Silver. Until next time, catch you later.